If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. Good night from the Dusty Wheel. We sit around here, smash to black.
If you want news and rumors that appeal, welcome to the Dusty Wheel.
Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. I'm your host, the Innkeeper, and this is our live call and talk show all about the Wheel of Time. And we are back. I think this is our third stream in less than 24 hours because that's how we do this. That's the Wheel of Time for those of us that love to just dig into the details. And we're going to do some of the digging into the details today with, like I said, right here, you see it across. I know I'm doing this weird thing lately about showing you what you can read on my screen, which is we're going to talk with Sharon Gilham, the costume designer for the Wheel of Time, and yeah, talk about, honestly, Lanfear. That's what we're going to talk about. If you thought we were going to talk about anything else, I'm sorry that no, we will talk about other things. But you know how much I love Lanfear, so we will definitely be asking Sharon about those costumes. So without further ado, let me welcome to the Dusty Wheel, Sharon. Thank you very much for being here. We really appreciate it.
Lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Oh, absolutely. This is something, I mean, honestly, we will get a chance to speak here in a couple of months because you're going to be a guest at WatCon, right, in July. So, yeah, is this the first time you've gone to a convention about the Wheel of Time or costuming, or you often are kind of like a guest at conventions?
No, this is my first time, and I really can't decide what to wear. I'm just really struggling. I'm just going to have to raid the costume store here in Prague to come up with or maybe a series of outfits. But I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait to meet all the fans and just kind of have endless questions thrown at me. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that is definitely the group you're coming into. There's going to be I'm sure they're going to have lots of questions for you. I mean, that made me kind of like wonder, like you dress so many people. You just said like, I don't know what I'm going to wear to WatCon. Is it harder for you to come up with your own wardrobe than it is to come up with designs for a fantasy TV show?
Well, to be honest, I love clothes, so I do have quite a few clothes, and I just throw them together. But some days I look at myself and go, "What were you thinking?" Because my mind is so focused on something else. No, I mean, I'm much happier. I'm much happier behind the camera, and I'm much happier dressing other people than myself, to be honest.
No, 100%. I mean, you can tell how much you love it. We're going to jump into some of those designs. I did see a comment. You asked, like, what should you wear to WatCon? A comment in chat from fans. They said, bring a Tanchico veil. Do you have a favorite veil that you guys worked on during the show? Was there something that you just loved that you wish you could have been wearing?
I mean, the whole of Tanchico was just so joyous because it was I was trying to find a way to do the veil that wasn't kind of culturally appropriation or culturally appropriating, or doing something as simple as just a piece of fabric over the head. So when we started to come up with this idea of these textured fabrics that went over the faces and really started to distort people's features, it kind of really made sense to what Tanchico was and what it should be and how dark and weird it should be, just strange. And I think, I mean, yeah, you can see here. So we've got, the the guy with his veil is just a mini veil, a bit like the
Yeah.
one that Nynaeve wears. But then
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
favorite ones, to be honest, the ones where the eyes were cut out the side of the face, and or they had lipstick drawn on top of the fabric, or just the fabric itself
Yeah.
created a weird look.
Yeah.
And it was amazing how all of the like this is my favorite kind of one, because it's
Really?
just not what you normally see in a fantasy show. It's just strange. And I think all the time I'm trying to push boundaries and push the idea of what fantasy is, or what these cultures can be, and just make them all have a really strong identity. So I
Yeah.
think that, yeah, just the idea of once we got hold of that idea, and my amazing crowd team were doing these fittings, and they'd send me pictures up on my WhatsApp, and I'd be sitting in my office upstairs, and I just kept shrieking with laughter or like excitement every time I saw one in the crowd. And they all, to their credit, all these amazing Czech extras all went with it. They totally got into it, and I think everybody just got something out of that whole sequence it was just so much fun.
Oh my gosh, it just looks like
Really was.
how many total veils would you
Yeah.
say were how many veils were there on the
Yeah,
show?
well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I think in Tanchico, we probably had about between 80 and 100 extras. So there were a lot of them, and the idea was as well that everybody from on different sort of social scales
Yeah.
wore a veil that was something to do with themselves or their character. So some of them were like that scrunched bit of fabric just pulled across his face, and then these were like that,
Yeah.
like the real lowest common denominator, but they still had to wear a veil. That's what I loved, is that that you have to find a way for each character to interpret that. And we did the principles, but look at all these things that the crowd team did. They were just amazing, and they just ran with it. And when we went to South Africa, we had to recreate parts of this as well.
Yeah.
And again, the South African team saw these pictures and were like, what is that? And then had the raw materials, and they just went for it. They just it's quite unusual on
Yeah.
a show to have that much creativity across the board, and I really love getting my team involved with the design process, and giving people something to play with or run with, and then letting them just go. And I think Tanchico, of all things, was the least prescriptive and the most fun in terms of interpretation of what it could be. So it was brilliant.
Yeah, I'm seeing some comments in chat. Some of them are so freaky, it's awesome. I need some Tanchico looks. Tanchico is so extra. That one is so bizarre. Yeah, no, there's a lot of love for Tanchico here. Innkeeper, did you have a favorite Tanchico look?
I can't get over Matt being like, you can't wear that veil, and then he wears it, and then in episode 8, how he has it like draped like over his head, and he's eating. It's it's just perfect for Matt. Yeah, I mean there's so many, but that like just stood out in that kind of humorous way.
Yeah, the Matt look. You brought up you brought up your team and just how much, and I feel this is not nearly, I think you even said on this post, this is just a really small portion of your team. But I saw this post and I was just like, yeah, like how big is this team when we think about all the costuming for the Wheel of Time, and like yeah, I'm just trying to imagine what this must be like when you think about 80 to 100 extras and all of the really unique costuming that we get across cultures, etc. Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, there were sort of I did tally it up. It's something like 900 principal costumes that we've made, because with all the repeats, because so many of the scenes had stunts in them. So it was never just one costume. It would be one costume, or 3 costumes for the main cast member, and then 3 costumes for the stunt double, and then extras and repeats and so on. And that group there are the people who, the standby team, the principal standby team. So some of the crowd standbys were there as well in that picture, but there were also another group of people for the enormous battle in episode 7.
Yeah.
And those people, I mean, were just such heroes because it was cold and it was really hardcore, loads of blood, like night shoots, 3 weeks of night shoots. And they look at them, oh, they're so amazing. And they're just all so positive and stoic and hardworking and really paid so much attention to detail. It was fantastic. But in the overall costume department, I think we had, the last count was something like 160 people. And I did put a picture, I posted a picture a while back. I'm going to put it again of the team, all of us in Prague standing on this sort of scaffolding tower. You know, and all of those people had a part to play. All of those people did something really important. What, you know, from people just ironing fabric in meters and meters of fabric as it came in, to the people sewing repeats and leather team making endless repeats of things. All the Aiel armor, everything, all of those Aiel people, that's all made from scratch. Nothing from that is hired. Wow. You know, so that's a team of people, and everything's really detailed because I love detail and texture. And I remember when we did the Shanshan, that was the first thing I had to do in season 2, and we did one, and it was really elaborate, and then I was like, yeah, that's it, and then they all kind of looked at me thinking, now we've got to make 100 of these things that are like really, really complex and detailed. But I think it pays off because I think, you know, the thing, what you see on screen is always really textured. Like even, this character, Ruark's, one of Ruark's wives, she, you know, everything is individual. That central piece of her costume is like a vintage textile that I bought. I think that was in France. You know, the robe that she's wearing over her arms was handmade in England by a hand woven. That's the word I'm looking for, in England. And she actually, the piece on her back is another vintage piece, but she had some, because she's quite a high level character. Within that world, she had sort of gold in her costume. So the front piece has sort of gold wire woven into it, and she has got like a gold fabric underneath that shawl. Okay. But I wanted to put the gold fabric under it because in the Aiel culture they would value more, and we should value more, these things that are made by hand, you know, that are beautifully woven and people spend time on it. The value of that is greater than the bling of something that's just pure gold on the top.
I hadn't actually stared at the back of that, and that's just, that's gorgeous. The fact that these are just kind of hand woven and all the work you're saying that's wild.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're joining us after episode 8 because we have to talk about the Eelfinn, and I'm sure you can finally talk about it too. You did mention this in talking to Amber from Road to Tarvalon last year, and you mentioned in season 3 there's going to be a character unlike we've ever seen, and a lot of fans in that moment were like, is this going to happen? And so we wanted to ask, like, is that kind of who you were referencing? And, you know, you love details. We're minutia geeks too. We want to like dig into like how this came to be.
Yeah. This was what I was referring to. Yeah, because again, it's like not something that, you know, if you're watching a normal fantasy show, they tend to be a particular look to it, you know, and it's set in a certain place, and that's where everything happens. Whereas the Wheel of Time is just so exciting because it has so many different worlds coming together, so many different cultures and things. And I remember reading the script because this was in episode 8. So obviously by that time we were still shooting episodes 5 and 6 and doing pickups, and it was like, oh my God, oh, this, okay, oh, right, a costume made of human skin, right, okay, ready. And in fact, Nick Dudman, who did the prosthetics, he's the one who actually approached me to ask me if I could help with the costume, which I was really flattered because Nick did Harry Potter. He's really, like, you know, he knows his stuff.
Yeah.
And he said to me that he wanted me to get involved because he wanted it to be to fit into the Wheel of Time costume world as well, what he's wearing. So he's done this amazing prosthetic, and this flocked this actor, the actor, which I'm sure he'll hear about at some point, but it's quite an amazing process. And then we worked together to create the costume. So you can see you can see there's faces on the shoulders that have all the piercings running through them. So you can see sort of like a mouth there where your cursor is.
Oh no, we didn't see it.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Is that a nose? Oh yes. My gosh.
So these are down a bit to the on the left-hand side as well, the other side. You can see other side. Oh well, yeah, you can see the nose there.
Yeah, the nose on.
And on that's it, his right-hand side. So the thing is that we put the piercings in because we thought it would the idea is with Matt that he doesn't see it immediately. He doesn't see what he's looking at. I mean, not surprisingly, because there's a giant creature. We wanted it to be really quite subtle, and it wasn't until you zoomed in that you start to go, oh my God, that's some nostrils. No, that's a screaming mouth. No.
That is is that supposed to be a nose and a mouth and a face right there? Is that what you're...
Yeah, that's the nose where your cursor is, and the mouth is there where that hole is.
Gosh.
No way.
Oh, that's so wild.
Yeah, so Nick started making these things out of latex, but latex, because it all had to actually be connected to itself, it was actually made in leather in the end. And the idea of the noses, on the back, have you got a picture of the back of it?
Oh, the back, Innkeeper, can you give me one?
Yeah, I can find one. Yeah,
this is a side shot, which doesn't really.
Yeah,
you can see them this way also.
Yeah, you can see the faces sort of built in, but down the back, especially, is all these noses and ears that creates like a spine all the way down the back of the costume. And so Nick's team made cast some noses that were then made in latex and then in leather, I think, as well, so that everything could be stitched together and actually put onto the costume. I'm going to post some images of the costume, the making of this costume, and that back shot at some point soon.
Well, I'm going to throw that one up here. By the way, everyone is just like, I'm seeing wow, so wild. Thanks. I hate it. I love it. So, glad I didn't just eat.
The thing was also that I wanted him to look a bit like Ziggy Stardust, like David Bowie is.
Oh, he does.
So there's
for
also
sure,
so there's also that element of like the fashion thing and the drama of what that character was, and the couture thing. I mean, that's why I think again we got involved, was because we've got this kind of aesthetic where the costumes are real, but they're also, you could see them on the catwalk, you could see them on the runway, or they have something about them, because I wanted him also to be like, you kind of go, wow, he looks great. And then you start looking closer and then it's like, no, he doesn't. He is really scary.
Yeah. This isn't, you can't see this as well. I know Innkeeper, you're probably grabbing this, but you can kind of see it. There's a blurred shot. I think there's probably a better shot, but you're talking about the spine.
I'm trying to find. There's one right at the bottom. Yeah.
That spine is made up of noses, and then there's sort of like ears around, decorating down the side of the spine all the way down.
Oh my gosh.
And everything's pierced because it's kind of just creating that idea of kind of obscene decoration on obscenity, kind of nastiness and weirdness, but there's a kind of pride in the way that he's really wants to show off what his work is, basically.
I think you captured that idea, which that's what it feels like to me in the books. It's just like, that's like that's not like it is part of their, I guess, culture. Let me call it that. Like that's their way. By the way, I saw this comment: Bowie and Pennywise had a kid. Is what they said.
Fantastic.
That's a great shot. I will never see this image now the same. So thank you very much, Sharon. Now, like, now that's I'm even more creeped out for Matt right here. Just that look. He's looking at this, and Matt's, because like Matt's seeing. I wonder how much, conceptually, like that character's even getting in that moment, right? If he's seeing because he saw the skulls and stuff on the ground. Yeah, he's staring up at his chest, and now I realize maybe they have him staring up his chest because he's seeing like people's faces on their art. That's so gross. It's so good.
Yeah, because Donald wasn't allowed to see him before that scene actually happened.
Oh,
he did
no
not
way.
see him.
Wow, that's awesome.
He didn't see him. That would have been so cool. Oh my gosh, that's a question for Donald out there. By the way, thank you. People have asked this question. There's 200 of you watching us right now. Thank you for being here. I hope you are following Sharon on Instagram. Sharon, you've been so great. One of the reasons why I wanted to chat with you is I just really appreciate when the people that are working on the show, like all the care that they're taking, and then they like interact with fans. And I call it like, it's that, there's a couple names for it that we have as fans when we were reading the books and we had to wait for another book. And it's that space, right? Sometimes it was a slog of our own where we're waiting, we're talking about the books, and then when's the next one that come out? And the seasons have the same distance, right? In that way, like there's space between seasons, we're waiting. And you've done a fantastic, I just really appreciate you've cared to interact with fans in the midst of that time. And I just know how much fans were living for your posts and all the comments you were making. No, I just want you to know that, like, if you don't already, fans really appreciate just that engagement and the care. Again, like you seem like how much you understood the material, and the fact that you could, like, the questions you were answering, they just really appreciated that.
Well, thank you. I mean, I appreciate you saying that, because I do feel like incredibly connected to this project. And I put my hands up, I've always said I haven't read the books,
Yeah.
but I have so much respect for all of that detail. And I did use it. Like, I didn't just skim the surface of anything. Like, wherever I could, I went into the detail from the books and then played with it and dialed it up and so on. But I love, it's really lovely to work on a project where you do have fans who are so knowledgeable, who get what you're doing and enjoy it. And then I was saying to you earlier, people interpret something that I've done that actually wasn't intentional, but makes sense. And it's like this kind of happy accident that through all this richness of material, I've come up with my version of it that somehow means something to somebody else, or they read something, they see something in something that I haven't read, that isn't the script that I've read, but makes sense. And that just gives me so much pleasure and joy, because it's, as a creative person, that is a fantastic place to be, and I feel really lucky, incredibly lucky to have been involved.
Yeah, no, I've seen a lot of comments just Sharon is a hero of the horn. People just you got us through the longing, if you understand what the longing is. But basically, yeah, fans just have really appreciated your work. I think coming into season 2, and we're going to talk about Lanfear here soon. Like, by the way, if you guys are watching right now, this time is going to pass by so quickly, and you're going to have like 300 questions you wish you could have asked Sharon. But guess what? If you have time, visit it. Like, go to WatCon. Like, you still have a chance to kind of be there, and we can continue conversations in WatCon, which is going to be a blast. I did want to ask you. You just mentioned something of like, sometimes people tell you like, oh, basically they're saying, oh my gosh, you did this and it's this, and you're like, well, just a happy accident. I mean, Robert Jordan often used character clothing to illustrate like a character arc. And it does seem like you're doing that. Like, what's the process when it's not just a happy accident. What's the process about kind of integrating things you've learned or, know about a character into the actual clothing and where they're going? Because it seems like there are intentional moments where you're like, oh, this is referencing something that's coming later. And what a great kind of seeding, if you will, of that idea already in the clothing. Like, how does that come about?
It sort of works in different ways, and sometimes it's quite sort of deliberate. So I'm just trying to think of an example. There's like I guess, you know, kind of like the Rand visions in episode 4. Their costumes are all a version of Cadinsor, you know, the kind of uniform of the Aiel. So that's kind of specifically placed there, even in a bigger or smaller way. And then sometimes other things just happen to me, something I see or read or hear or something. And like Rand's jacket that he wears at the end, in the Aiel waist at the end, in episode 7 and 8. That jacket, a friend of mine who's a weaver sent me a little video of herself weaving something. She was describing with using this thing called the wandering thread. So you have this sort of line going through the weaving. And she was saying, and every now and then there's a little triangle, and that indicates an important moment in my life. And I went, oh, it's Rand. It's Rand's jacket. It's Rand's life. That's Rand. That's his whole process. That's his journey.
Yeah. And
so I got her to weave pieces of fabric in the Aiel colors with those with this wandering thread and with the little triangles, and on that jacket, which is the jacket that he wears right all the way down into Golden Bowl, is like the storytelling of his life. It is, you know, it's his journey to this place from Two Rivers, which is why I put the blue of the front section, which is part of a costume of Lanfear's from season 2. And the stitching is like Two Rivers stitching, but it's also like water flowing. So he has all this, that jacket is so loaded with symbolism. And so that kind of thing is my interpretation of the books beyond what's written in the books, you know. Whereas the red jacket in season 2 was obviously very much a specific thing from the book, which I also didn't do an interpretation of. But so sometimes it is just like, it kind of just occurs to me, something just happily falls into my consciousness and makes sense, because I guess I'm so into it. I'm so into the story that things looking around me, like here in Prague, there's this huge rotating sculpture of Kafka's head, where the face sort of moves and distorts and moves around. And that was what I used for the idea for the pauldron for the white cloaks, the baddies. Because they're men looking around, like scanning the horizon for women, women who can channel. And it was just like, that would be great as a concept, as a kind of visual idea. And then that's their belts and so on. That's also on their belt. So it became a sort of symbol of them, of those white cloaks. That's the way it works. I think it's when you have so much rich material that your imagination can just keep playing and keep going.
We feel that.
I mean, so Sharon, I gotta ask, you're wearing a hat, and there was a lot of hat, talk. There's so many hat advocates now, people who love Moiraine's hat. Speak to us how the hat came to be, and you mentioned, in this about foreshadowing, Easter egg, and the porcupine spine.
Well, I kind of put that in there because I just thought it was a little foreshadowing thing, and it was. In fact, it was another one of those where Rosamund said she wanted to have something on her head in South Africa because it's very hot and the sun is really, really powerful. And we talked about hoods and things, and even like a kind of turban thing, we really went around the houses. We tried on lots of different hats. We tried lots of head coverings. I didn't really want it to be a hood because, again, I wanted to step out of the kind of obvious looks for a fantasy show. And Moiraine would barter with a peddler. I think Rosamund wrote something funny on one of my posts about, because Rosamund is so informed about the books and so intelligent, and so it's like kind of really clear. There it is. So So it just made sense. But obviously, it has to be. I know people were freaked out about it, but it is made of like a Hessian. It is totally within the Aiel world. It's believable as a fabric in that world. And people have been wearing hats on their heads certainly since medieval times, even if they were quite makeshift. But obviously, this is Rosamund Pike, so she looks absolutely fabulous in it. And then the porcupine spine I bought this porcupine pelt, like a whole porcupine, right at the beginning of the show, right at the beginning of the prep, actually, as part of all these textiles and vintage textiles that I was buying in England. And it just sat in the studio, probably in my room, actually, in my office, for a long time. Like, I always knew it was there. And this is what I mean about a happy accident, but also planning without planning, because I just get things that I like, and then they provide the inspiration. So that the porcupine spines came with us to South Africa, and it was like, well, she needs something in this hat that looks like a feather. That's what I was thinking. That's what I would put in if we were in a place where there were birds around. And there are no birds in the desert. And so I gave her that, and then the whole thing with Savannah happened that her final costume in the Golden Bowl, the spiky costume, so it's like a kind of a huge neck piece and the sort of Mohican headdress. Rafe said to me, we did some fittings in Prague before we went to South Africa, and then we arrived in South Africa, and he said, we were doing fittings, and he was like, oh, it's not really working. And he said, did I say that she should be like the Lady Suroth of season 3? And I went, what? No, you didn't say that, Rafe. No. So it was like, oh my God, she's got to be really, really dramatic. I mean, Natasha is a beautiful woman, absolutely beautiful. But it was like, well, what could she have that looks like it belongs to this clan, has the darkness, has the danger, has the sort of violence of it, of that, and her aggressiveness and so on. And so these porcupine quills that had come from England to Prague to South Africa came into their own. And it was like, well, this is what we're going to do with them. So, Moiraine, it's almost like Moraine's journey. That was what I meant by kind of foreshadowing. But it's like she picked something up that actually was used by another character down the line. But like, tenfold in this super dramatic moment. Yeah. So that was the connection.
That's awesome. That costume is amazing. Innkeeper, did you have a follow-up on that?
No, you mentioned, Easter eggs, and, like, we love trying to find meaning in, like, why is that there? But is there, are there examples of, hidden details or Easter eggs that were nods to the book fans that we maybe have not noticed, or one that you like had just fun, like, working on and being like, let's like, I want to put that in?
Well, I was going to say another one, which is the Moraine's armor that she wears in the final battle is very significant in the same way that Rand's jacket was. I don't know if you could say this is in the book, but it's based on the book. So I wanted her to have some kind of like armor like covering, but she's an Aes Sedai, so she doesn't need armor, or maybe she does. But anyway, so we wanted to create like a sort of breastplate thing for her. And this is so significant, this scene, this battle with Lanfear, that didn't want it just to be like normal armor. I wanted it to have like a symbolic meaning. And so in that breastplate, I wanted to use some text from the books, and I hope I'm going to be able to remember what it is now. But it's a piece of text that Moiraine says, which, oh my God, I had it in my head and I haven't written it down, so I can't remember it. But it's something like, "Remember and heed. It is time, and I must do what must be done." That's the text. So we used that text and we had it transcribed into Old Tongue, and then the text was mirrored. And that text is what is all that decoration on her front. That is those words repeated and repeated and repeated. And they was all made into a sort of graphic file, and then made laser cut, and the lovely Rob Goodwin cut it out. So it's like she's wearing her credo on her body.
Oh, wow.
And that again, you know, I love doing stuff like that. Actors love doing stuff like that because it gives so much more significance to the thing that they're wearing. And so for the both of them, that was like, something that was all about their journey to now and what it meant to them to be who they are, why they're there, all of those things.
I mean, talking about like trying to integrate meaning into a character's like look, if you will. I'm curious. Obviously, everyone's out there's like, oh, Matt, we're gonna go here, which is Lanfear. Lanfear was so iconic in season 2, right? Like the dream world moments where we saw her. I don't even know what you call the, like, I don't know if it's a hat, it's a crown. Like, where did the inspiration for like a Lanfear's look come from? And how did that come about? Because it's like she has some of the most talked about costumes in the show.
Do you mean generally, or in season 2? Oh,
yeah, I mean generally, but then in season 3 also. I mean, I'll show some of the ones you put together for season 3. They're just amazing. But yeah, I'm curious, like, what was the idea behind I don't know. It's just like a really dramatic look, and so I'm curious, like, did you sit down? Did you talk through like this? She's always going to be dressed in a similar kind of motif. What was it that kind of brought it together for you?
I think at the beginning, I didn't even realize that. I sort of suddenly started to dawn on me that Celine and Lanfear were the same person. So I kind of knew that she was Rand's love interest. I knew that she was a very significant character. I knew that she came from the future, or she comes from that part of the future, and that she's a dark character. And there's certain elements like her symbol is the moon, so that headdress is like the moon's surface on it. That kind of texture is like a print of the surface of the moon. So rather than having like just a moon on her head, it's like her head is the moon, is the surface of the moon, but it's also kind of strange and broken up and silvery. So a lot of her costumes have some silver coming through them, which is supposed to be like the moonlight. I know that also has been a lot of stuff about why is her color is white, so why is she not in white? Why is she always in black?
Yeah.
I think in terms of storytelling for non-book fans, it's certainly in season 2 and then into because in season 2 she sort of transforms from the Foregate character into a kind of the final version of herself in that suit. And here, this is very deliberately chosen for her to be in white here, because I quite like the idea that she's only in white once, and when she is, it's like she's transparent, she's kind of almost kind of fragile. She is like the true Lanfear character, and then the rest of the time she is this darkness. And going from that costume into that one that you just showed with the headdress with the moon on it, unfortunately you can't really see that costume very much because there's of all the strings of the entrails of Samael. But I am going to post that costume as well, because it's like really angular and really hard. And I wanted that. Actually, you do see her in white, don't you? You also see her in Rand's vision of the breaking of the world, and she's and she's in white there as well. So it's like this character who, this is her. This is the white. This is the Lanfear from the books whose dress is in white, but she has turned to the dark side. And I think there's also that idea of all of these characters. There's a lot going on in these stories, and if you haven't read the books, you do need to have a bit of signposting about who belongs to which world and which universe. And so the Forsaken generally all wear dark clothing, which puts them into that kind of bracket and makes it clear that that's who they are. Apart from obviously the Black Ajah when they go to Tanchico and they just go for the most exaggerated version of their Ajah color that I could come up with, which was also great fun.
Is that what that was? Yeah, we were talking. I'm trying to Innkeeper. I don't know if you remember the timestamp of when they're walking. Is it like episode 3? I think it's episode 3. I want to find it. Like the walk that they do through Tanchico. Everyone's just like, I can't remember what the name. If anyone in chat remembers what people were saying,
People were like, the
like,
glow up they got, like
yeah,
that.
Yeah, that's the glow up. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because there was a scene that we had to drop actually, where they were they were going to be all walking straight in a line together down the street, like like in that sort of like really a slow motion sort of iconic way, but we didn't have time to do that scene in the end. So them walking through the streets of Tanchico that you're talking about still had that impact, I think, just because the colors were so vivid of all of their costumes. And Rafe's brief to me for that was that they should look like they're living their best lives. And so I just, they still wearing their Ajah colors, but it's all dialed up, like really dialed up. And there was a conversation as well about Leandrin in that costume, in that sequence, or the entire sort of Tanchico sequence. And should she be dark because she's a Black Ajah? Shouldn't she be dark? And I just thought it would be more interesting for me if her costume was so bright that it hurts your eyes. Like the red of it is so like really, really vivid, sort of painful red. And it's also sort of references that her whole backstory of, being a child bride and so on. And it has this sort of feeling of, it's like fresh blood and she's out to get blood and all of that. And that was the idea behind that costume. And then once I'd kind of gone there with her, then the other Ajah also really needed to be dialed up as well, so the blues are really vivid, kind of metallic, and so on.
Yeah, that's the fact that you tied that into, like you said, just like her origin story, right? Her life. Her costuming, I didn't even think about the connection there. You said, it's at 31. Here's the walk-in. Let's watch this walk-in here to Tanchico. This is them living their best lives. I love it. What a great. This is so good. And I'm trying to think of what. It's like a DC movie that this kind of makes me think.
The Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Yeah. It's like it kind of has that walk-in is so good.
Also, I mean, the whole of the Thomas Napper, who's the director of that episode, the scene where they kind of just destroy everybody at the wedding. Was it, again, it's a TV show, so there's never enough time to properly linger on anything, but they did such a great performance of just destroying all of those people in that room, and some of the silhouettes and things from their costumes is just really iconic.
That's you don't see, of course, I mean, they give us this scene. There's that and then everyone, you don't get to see, like you're saying, there's probably so much going on here. But it was an amazing stunt sequence. That's so weird, right? There's like a whole choreography going on behind. I wonder how much time was put into stunts, and we end up just getting this really intimate kind of moment here, like where she's really focused in here, so you don't see what's going on. That's funny. I didn't even think about that. There's a whole, like, I want that deleted scene, I
know, right? You want the whole footage, the whole thing. Let's give us the rushes, all those cameras at different angles.
I like this comment. The Black Ajah Tanchico hate couture. There you go. There's your. That's the look here. The Lanfear aspect of this. It feels like you do that for each of these kind of major characters. I think people have talked about like Egwene's changing. What Egwene wears seems to kind of just be moving along with the cultures and what she what happens to her, and what she chooses to go with the wise ones. You kind of see this evolving, clothing, what she's choosing, and how it's kind of talking about her journey. So yeah, I mean, like you said, you've talked about like the Wheel of Time being a rich place to work in, play in, if you will. What is it that you think is so? Is Robert Jordan's writing different in this way? I mean, what you talk about just having loads of material. Is that just unusual? Are you not? Is that not something you run into when you come into adaptations before?
I mean, I haven't, to be honest, this is the first fantasy show I've ever worked on. So I haven't done a job before where I've been interpreting or using a book as the reference, because otherwise normally I'm given a script and that script is what it is, and you get a certain amount of information or backstory, and then you have to invent. Whereas I think we talked before about Sarah Nakamura, who is like our resident Wheel of Time expert, and anything we wanted to know, like the thing is that like I said, I love detail and I love texture. And I think the more information you have, the more you can put into the costume, even if it's quite subtle. But I would always refer to her, always ask her, like, give me things. What can you tell me about this place? What can you tell me about this character? What can you tell me about that? Even in one of the things I posted recently was Fail's armor has, like, where's she from, and what's the symbol of, what does she have in what is the symbol of Saldea? What, how can we incorporate that, even though you never see it because she's got a hood on and it covers the armor at the back. But like, again, it's like the actor knows that thing is there, and it just gives them another layer. And that's what that's kind of why I always saying that I want to talk about it, and I always banging on about doing an exhibition, because I want people to see it's not about me, it's about like the work that went into it by the people that I've been working with, the craftspeople, the makers and the cutters and the breakdown artists and so on. And also just because I just want to tell you all the detail that and I don't always remember it until I look back at the costume, or I look at my mood boards or something, where I've got, each mood board is like 6 or 7 pages of references or interpretations or something to do with that place or that culture or that character that could be incorporated. And it isn't always, sometimes you can't get it all in, but when you can, it's just so joyous. It's so great.
I can't imagine what we've missed. I honestly, like you're talking about, like, thing, like we don't get maybe we don't see what's going on behind. We don't see everyone's full costume just because of the shot that they're taking. Someone has said this, like, we need an exhibition tour. We need a Wheel of Time exhibition tour to like see all the details, even when we zoom into things, like really being up close and personal. Yeah, they're amazing.
Yeah, because I mean, I remember going to the Harry Potter experience in London when that first was made, and I'm obviously loving looking in great detail at the costumes, but going to the sets and things as well. Like when you see the amount of like people, we live this world. It's not like it's not just a job. It's something that we actually live and breathe. And what's so great as well, when you have such a good team and such a big team of really capable people, that they start saying, well, tell me more about this where are they from, or tell me about their parents, or tell me about whatever it is, what their dreams and hopes and wishes, and then they also bring these things in, and it's quite unique, I think, to be in that kind of environment. It's a really, really incredibly lucky experience, and I'm so grateful to Ray for trusting me to bring me in.
I know we have to let you go here shortly, but Innkeeper, I know you had kind of not a final question. Honestly, we have a list of
there's
like
so
50
many
other questions, whatever. But that's what WotCon's gonna be for, everybody. But yeah, I know you wanted to ask about something pretty unique. Fans were kind of wondering if this was going to show up someday, and
I mean, we've seen like such amazing Aes Sedai looks right throughout, and then Black Ajah, all the different Ajahs, but the cold open of 308, we see all of them at Swan, when Swan gets to be the on the seat, the shawls, and how the shawls were a big part of the writing of Aes Sedai costuming in the books. So yeah, maybe speak about how this came to be and what your thoughts were in making this kind of on the screen.
Well, I know, like from season 2, I know how much the fans were like, "But where are the shawls? Why are they not wearing their shawls?" And so, this was obviously the moment. In fact, I have to tell you this little story. When we first started talking about it's 301. And they were all sitting in the beginning of that battle sequence, and I thought that they should actually be in shawls then. And in the meantime, I started with my team. We started just creating some Aes Sedai looks, some dresses, and some outfits and things, and we did it from time to time. We would put things on a mannequin and do a sort of display, like a show and tell for Rafe. And Justine, the other showrunner, and the directors, and various people. And this particular day, I said, "All right, we're going to show the Aiel development. I'm going to show you this, and then I'm going to take you to the magic room." And they were like, "What, the magic room?" And one of the fitting rooms upstairs in the studio, we'd put probably like about 15 mannequins dressed in the Aiel, in the Aes Sedai looks, and lit the room like it was a theatre show. And went in, and I said, "Right, you can come in." And it was just dark, and you could just see all these Aes Sedai outfits. And I said, "So I could put them all in shawls, or I could do this." And they went, "You have to do this." So that's why in that first in the opening in the cold open of 301, they are all dressed in individual outfits. But so therefore, this scene was the one where we had this opportunity to see them in the shawls and do that, create that look, which I think gives it more drama in a way, because you just see it at this point, you see like, and just another level, really, another layer of what the Aes Sedai world is. But the other thing that's quite tricky and took quite a long time is how to choose the right colors so that the whole thing looks beautiful and harmonious, because gray and brown in the mix do not necessarily make for a beautiful palette. So it was like all really choosing very carefully what the shades of red were, what the shades of gray, or what the shawls were that the gray Aes Sedai wear, actually, because I didn't put them in gray. I put them in sort of, I put very pale gray and a kind of pinky color, just so the whole thing looked beautiful. And then when we were doing the Amarillion shawl, the time we spent arranging all those the fringing, where it's, because you can't actually see, you never see it in the shot, I don't think. When Swan has that put around her shoulder, you only see her from the waist up. But the amount of time that we spent deciding which color was going to go next to which color was like a few days because it had to be right, it had to be beautiful. And the other thing that you don't see is when Elaida makes herself Amarillion.
Yeah,
she removed the blue from the shawl, from the tassels on the shawl. There is no blue, and that was also quite a significant thing that you never see. But I'm telling you now, and I'll show you a picture. But I loved doing those shawls because I knew that the fans were going to go, "At last!"
You got that.
We totally did.
Oh my gosh! If you saw the messages, by the way, we want to go to the magic room. No,
that's the exhibition. That's the magic room is the exhibition we have to have.
I know it's the stuff you're talking about. It's just, and this is just I feel like it's just such a small portion of everything. We didn't really get to I promise those of you that submitted questions out there at WatCon, we'll dig into the Aiel, and all the costuming for the Aiel. I know how much love there was for the work that your team did with the Aiel. Like, people just felt like it was so distinct, but so like you said, and even like in Ruidian, as you went back and how you applied that kind of look, but just in a different, styles, times, etc. And that's not even jumping into like Two Rivers, the looks there. I mean, we got to some Tanchico, stuff, which was fantastic. So we can't wait to continue this conversation again. Thank you so much for making time today. And everybody, I think there's like 250 of you watching now. Thank you for jumping on during midday and just having fun with us here. I asked, 97% would give your shawls at least an 8 or a 9 out of 10. And 75% give it a 10 out of 10. So like you hit with the shawls with the fans here. They loved it. They loved it. Thank you. And we can't wait to meet up again in just a couple months, everybody. So and Innkeeper, any last thought from you before we let Sharon get out of here?
I just went back to the face in the fin. I need to go back and look at that. I mean, you have to listen back to everything Sharon has said, but that just hit me in terms of, because I was looking back and I saw the ears in the back, and I'm like, I need to screenshot this and share it.
Yes, I think this cool. What you're saying is that's a good shot to end on right there. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So good. Sharon, thank you again for being here. Really appreciate it. And for those of you,
such a pleasure.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
No, I just said it's such a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for those of you watching, we will be back tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, live again, breaking down the episode, revisiting a lot of comments that honestly we made in the morning, like immediately afterwards, and some of us were not in full minds at the time. We can't wait to kind of like revisit all the conversations and touch on things that we just didn't get to earlier this morning. So, and as we say around here, everybody, good afternoon from the Dusty Wheel, and smash to black. Hey, welcome back to the Dusty Wheel. You went right to kill it. Look at you, you're all ready. You're just done. I mean, this is like this is
really well. And now I'm like, great, my turn.
And if you don't like that, and you want to say, well, Robert Jordan could have made the Two Rivers all white. He could have, but he didn't. So
okay. Just complimented me on my dress, and as you can clearly see, I'm not white.
I see Naomi as something along the lines of a Shadar Haran analog.
It does make sense why it outlasted the breaking.
Yeah.
This is why I have Therese in the show, because she's going to correct everything that.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Dusty Wheel Show. What? Meme Off Challenge. Yay!
Pair of like baby face mounted on like a huge body. So like all of a sudden,
this is not just a traditional fantasy, right? There are sci-fi
and
elements.
Just a moment ago, Rafe tweeted something. So let me get my guest in here with me, and
probably I would say put in 70, 80% of the work. I got to be over the shoulder and be like, no,